I got the inspiration for this minimalist style coat hook from a different hook I saw. I like the look, and I thought I'd buy some steel, use some scrap walnut, and give it a try. I'm using steel flat bar that's 1.5 inches wide and 1/8 inch thick. Since I don't have a metal cutting saw, I use my angle grinder to cut off about some 5 or 6 inch long sections. If you don't have an angle grinder, you can buy the same piece of metal in aluminum. The aluminum should be soft enough to cut with a regular miter saw blade. Although I would suggest using a 2x4 as a backing board during the cut if you're going to buy the aluminum. After cutting several pieces, I use my belt sander and disc sander to smooth out the edges and round off the corners. Since I've never sanded metal, this was a learning experience, and I'm probably doing it incorrectly, so let me know how badly I'm doing down in the comments. But whatever I did, it got the job done. I didn't break the sander or any fingers. I didn't consider the metal would be so hot, so I almost burned my hand at one point. For the walnut part, I glued up some scrap walnut to match the width of the metal. Then I squared up the edges. The glue line you can see later, it won't matter since the end grain will be covered up by the wall and the metal. The top and bottom won't really be seen. I needed to figure out what angle I wanted for the hook. I didn't want it too steep or it would stick out from the wall too far, and too shallow probably wouldn't look good. Maybe I have the steep and shallow descriptions backwards, but you get the idea. I settled on an angle of 20 degrees and then set my miter saw. After that, I just eyeballed the rest of the cuts and tried to make all the pieces the same size. The hardest part of this hook, if you can even call it hard, is drilling the holes. First I use a punch to mark off where the holes should go. And then I drilled them on the first piece. Here I'm using the holes to mark out the remaining metal pieces. I use a drill bit that's slightly larger in diameter than the lath screws I'm going to use. I used the holes I just drilled in the metal to mark where I needed to drill in the walnut. These holes need to be parallel to the top of the walnut pieces, otherwise the screw heads won't sit flush. I cut out a scrap piece of wood at the same 20-degree angle and use this as a jig to make the wood sit perpendicular to the drill press. As you can see, this worked out pretty well. The only issue is the screws go into the wall at an angle. If you're attaching it to a stud, it's fine, but might be tricky if you use a wall angle. To attach the metal to the wood, I just used some JB weld. I couldn't really clamp anything together, so I just crossed my fingers and hoped that it wouldn't move or stick to the screws that I used for alignment. Thankfully it didn't. So these are basically done. I went with a hammered black finish for the paint. Ideally, you'd want to powder coat these, but this is a YouTube channel that doesn't make any money, so I spray painted them. I'm using a 3-inch lath screw and a 2-inch lath screw to secure it to the wall. Since it's at an angle, you want the 3-inch screw because it has farther to go into the wall or through the walnut part, and the 2-inch doesn't have as far to go. I guess there were a 2.5-inch, might be a little bit better. It should reach. This should reach through the drywall and get in some of the stud. This will definitely go into the stud. And the lath screws also have this giant washer style head on it that kind of looks pretty good. All right, now we're gonna go mount them to my makeshift wall. One thing I didn't consider when making these, or how I was going to attach them to the wall, was I want the head of the screw to sit flush, so I need the hole to go at an angle like this, otherwise it won't sit flush against the hook part. But then the other problem is when you're drilling into the stud, the screw needs to go up into the stud. I did not consider that. If you have an impact driver, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. So the pilot holes I drilled to start were almost useless and just served as a place for the screw to catch to initially put it into the wall. So I really like the way these turned out. They look pretty sharp. Sadly, I don't have anywhere to hang them in my house. Otherwise, I would be showing you them mounted on a wall in my house. So I have this makeshift wall that I'm actually using to block the air conditioner from all the sawdust that's created in my workshop. I should have a link up in the corner if you'd like to see how I made this. It's on wheels, and I can move it out of the way in case someone needs to access the HVAC unit. Anyway, thanks for watching. Click the like button, subscribe, do whatever you want. I don't care. See you in the next video.